Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's meeting of the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Assembly members Bacchus.
Present.
Brown May.
Here.
Carter.
Present.
Dickman.
Here.
Gallant.
Here.
Gurr.
Here.
Karras.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Wen. Urick.
Here.
Chair Watts.
And I am present. Thank you. Please mark Assembly Member Nguyen present when he arrives. He is presenting a bill in another committee. If he does not make it back, we will mark him as absent excused. Welcome everyone joining us for today's meeting, both here in Carson City, anyone who may be joining us in Las Vegas, as well as anyone joining us by phone. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Please make sure to silence your electronic devices. Anyone planning to speak at our meetings in person today, please sign in at the desk in the back of the room. If you do have a business card, please provide that to our committee staff. It helps us as we're compiling the minutes for the meeting. Along those lines, when you are speaking, please turn on the microphone before you speak. Clearly state and spell your name for the record for the first time so that we can make sure those minutes are accurate. Once you have finished speaking, please turn off the microphone. And remember to always introduce yourself for the record each time before speaking. If you are providing any materials for our committee, please be sure to send that to our staff at least 24 hours in advance so that we can have that ready. We will be taking public comment at the end of today's meeting, and we'll limit public comment to 2 minutes. Anyone wishing to provide public comment or testimony via phone, please call 888-475-4499. When prompted, provide the meeting ID 840-8810-4531 and then press the pound sign. We have 2 bills on our agenda to be heard today. We plan to take these bills in order. But before we get to that, we do have a bill draft to introduce. As a reminder to all members, a vote to introduce this bill does not signal any of your support for the bill. It merely allows us to get it introduced, get it assigned a bill number, and then potentially bring it back to this committee for a hearing. The bill that we have before us for potential introduction is BDR 32-426, which revises provisions relating to the taxation of agricultural real property. So with that, I would entertain a motion to introduce this BDR.
So moved.
I have a motion from Assemblymember Brown May.
Second.
I have a second from Vice Chair Carter. Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. So, with that, we will now move on to our bill hearings for the day. We'll begin with Assembly Bill 409, which revises provisions relating to special license plates. Welcome back to the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, Minority Leader Hafen. I will open the hearing on AB 409. You can proceed whenever you're ready.
Again, please. Houston, we have a problem.
Thank you, Chair Watts, Vice Chair Carter, and members of the committee. As you just heard, we have a problem. My name is Gregory Hafen II. I have Elijah Weon with me, and I'm honored to represent Assembly District 36. And I'm proud to be here this afternoon to present Assembly Bill 409. So I mentioned there's a problem. I'm sure many of you know half the bills that we deal with this session are problems that, or misses that we made from the previous section, and that's how this started. This bill started with, I believe it was Assembly Bill 409 last legislative session, and it was to allow our special decorated veteran license plates to be able to personalize. All other license plates can be personalized, except for a very select few, and we missed some, of course. And so we're trying to address that, and then in conversations with the mothership, also known as the DMV, they notified me that we were missing a current veteran license plate, the only one in this state that we did not have, which is Space Force. This is not what the DMV has proposed. This is something you can actually go and buy off of vetfriends.com. If you are interested in supporting Space Force, go right ahead. And I do want to acknowledge that the member whose niece is in the Space Force and want to thank her for her service. And so, Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'll go ahead and summarize the bill. Those that are unfamiliar with the United States Space Force was officially established December 20th, 2019. Further, in 2022, May, the Department of Veteran Affairs officially recognized Space Force as a branch of the military, ensuring that the Guardians are eligible for the same benefits as other service members. Space Force was driven by the growing recognition of space as a critical domain for national security, requiring a dedicated military service to protect America's interests. The work that the Space Force conducts is essential for the needs of most Americans in their everyday life. For example, satellites orbiting the planet play a crucial role by connecting people globally, monitoring weather, broadcasting television, providing GPS services, and now I believe providing cellular services. As Nevada lawmakers, we take pride in our military members and families. One way we have shown this pride is through the issuance of special license plates to veterans and their families, which should be extended to all branches of the military, including the recently established Space Force. So now turning into the bill, if you will notice, we have submitted an amendment to the bill. It is up on Nellis because, as I stated before, we have a problem. We again missed some additional branches, special decorated license plates. So we are proposing to amend the ability to personalize the license plate to also include Air Force Cross, Coast Guard Cross, Distinguished Service Cross, and the Navy Cross. So, having said that, Mr. Chair, just want to thank you for the consideration of the bill, and we are here for any questions.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation. Members, any questions for Assemblymember Hafen? Nobody? All right.
And, Mr. Chair, if I may, I did have one other additional amendment. Assemblyman Gray would like to be added as a primary sponsor.
An amendment to add co-sponsors. Okay. We will consider it. Thank you for your presentation. Oh, not so fast. Assemblymember Yurick has a question for you.
Just to clarify that last amendment, would that be considered a friendly amendment?
Assemblymember Gray is a veteran of a separate branch of military, and therefore, I don't know the answer to that. I will have to get back to you.
Thank you very much. If you just get that response and provide it in writing to the members of the committee as a follow-up, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, seeing no other questions from members of the committee, we'll move on to testimony. We'll begin with testimony in support of Assembly Bill 409. Anyone wishing to provide testimony in support here in Carson City, if there's anyone hiding out in Las Vegas, please come forward. Seeing nobody at this time. AVH, do we have anyone wishing to provide testimony in support of Assembly Bill 409 by phone?
Chair, the public lines are open and working, but we have no callers to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. We'll now move on to testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 409. Anyone wishing to provide testimony in opposition in person, please come forward. Seeing none, AVH, would anyone like to provide opposition testimony by phone?
Chair, we have no callers to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. And testimony in neutral on Assembly Bill 409. Mr. Sever, welcome back. Please proceed whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Sean Sever from the Nevada DMV. We are neutral on AB 409. We submitted a zero impact fiscal note, cannot be determined, and appreciate working with the bill sponsor. I do want to add that there are quite a few license plate bills this session, so that have been a no impact, but if they all pass, it will have a cumulative impact on our license plate factory, which runs on very thin margins, and which is a reason for we answered cannot be determined. I'm also happy to report that DMV has fully implemented AB 203 from last session, which allows veterans to personalize their military license plates. And this was one of the two remaining bills we asked legislators to push back last session. This bill will add the 6th military branch and add in a couple of the license plates we missed last session for personalization. Thanks.
Thank you very much. One day I'll get a zero impact fiscal note on one of my bills. Okay, anyone else wishing to provide neutral testimony in person? Seeing none, AVH, does anyone wish to provide neutral testimony on Assembly Bill 409 by phone?
To testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 409, please press *9 to take your place in the queue.
Hello, this is Al Rojas calling from Las Vegas, Nevada. It's ROJAS. I live in Assembly District 12. I really wanted to testify in favor. The thing is, the meeting went so fast, I didn't even have time to dial in. So I totally support the plates. We see them all the time here for Metro. I'm part of a neighborhood watch group called Safe Communities Network. We're having tremendous success over here on Lake Mead and Hollywood Boulevard. We're a network with many other businesses, and we definitely support our first responders. That's what our country's all about. So I'm in total support of this, and I want to thank the legislators who brought this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rojas, and we will categorize your testimony as support. AVH, are there any other callers wishing to provide testimony?
Chair, we have no more callers to testify in neutral.
All right. With that, would the presenter like to make any closing remarks? They've been waived. Thank you very much for the presentation. Live long and prosper. And with that, I will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 409. And I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 415, which revises provisions governing the towing of motor vehicles. We'll welcome Vice Chair Carter down to the table, and welcome back to Assemblymember Goulding. Go ahead and take a moment to get ready. Once everything's settled, please begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of Growth and Infrastructure. Appreciate your tolerance. Letting me get going here. Myself and my colleague, Assemblymember Goulding, this kind of originated in the north and the south at the same time. I represent 8012, which is on the east side, and it's on the perimeter of the valley. And we've got an issue all over the perimeter, and this comes about from talking to local municipal electeds in the municipal areas, primarily Clark County, about the problem of abandoned large vehicles is where we started. Up there in my district, it's not unheard of to see motorhomes, RVs, big boats that I don't know how they get them off the trailer, but they're just dumped on the side of the road. In the issue we're working on, and that my colleague will explain further, She's got a fantastic presentation, and she's done a great job on this and led the charge on this. We're trying to make it to where it's feasible and not an economic burden to tow operators to get these vehicles out of our neighborhoods. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Assemblymember Goulding, and thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Committee. Thank you, Assemblymember Carter. This has been a fun bill for us to work on together. There are really two parts to this bill. The first part is abandoned junk vehicles. We'll get to the second part a little bit later, but the issue that we've talked about mostly is abandoned junk vehicles. In my neck of the woods, I represent Sun Valley. This was one of the very first issues that my constituents said, we need to do something about abandoned vehicles in our community. Sun Valley is on the urban-rural interface. Folks come out in the middle of the night and dump all kinds of junk, but the most difficult thing to get rid of is these abandoned junk cars. And the folks that I represent said, the trick here is we can't identify the owners. So we were really trying to figure out ways to not have to go through the normal process when there's an abandoned vehicle that somebody actually cares about it, there's some value. So abandoned vehicles are a blight on the communities, they're a public safety hazard, an environmental hazard, and they're really expensive to remove. I want to give you an idea of what these look like for those of you that don't live in an area that has a lot of abandoned vehicles. They range from something that looks like it could be a reasonable car if you're not too close to it, to just a complete shell. So here's the problem. When you have an abandoned vehicle, currently the process requires that you search for the owner. There could be a lien title required. There are holding periods in an impound lot. The towers lose money on these things, and it's a disincentive to taking care of the problem to these vehicles. So here's the solution that AB 415 recommends. If we all agree that it's junk, then let's treat it like junk. If you're picking up trash off the ground, you throw it right in the trash can. It's the same concept. So there are 4 criteria. And if the car meets, or the vehicle meets these 4 criteria, then we'll say, let's put it straight in the trash or send it right to scrap. So that would be, it's an abandoned vehicle, it is not registered, it is not roadworthy. So this isn't something that's broken down on the side of the road and you're waiting for the tow truck or to come get some help and get a jump or something on. This is not a roadworthy car. And it's a vehicle that's worth less than $500. Currently, the definition of a junk vehicle is $200 or less in scrap value. We're increasing that to $500, which is the same value that our neighboring states. Our neighboring states are either $500 or $750, so we're using the more conservative of those values. And if a vehicle meets these 4 requirements, the DMV would give it a junk certificate without jumping through a bunch of hoops. You don't have to try to figure out who the owner is. You don't have to figure out if it's insured, all of that, and we can take it straight to the trash heap. So that's part 1. Part 2 is a different issue for the towers. So what happens now is in many municipalities, or in some of our larger municipalities, when there is an accident on the roadside or a vehicle needs to be picked up roadside, there's a dispatch, goes to an app and looks at who's the closest tow truck. But there are some bad actors that have some spoof software. And this spoof software, what happens is the bad actors will sit on the radio and listen and realize, oh, there's an accident right in front of the GSR. So they can then quickly go into their software, make it look like their tow truck is right in their GSR, and then when dispatch gets on, they'll see that spoofed location and they'll get the call. But it's not solving the problem because they're not actually anywhere near the needed tow. So it's, so here's the problem. You can see the car with the red slash through it is the sort of dishonest location that's being reported. The tow truck is actually further away than a truly close tow truck, which is the green truck here. So here's the solution in the bill. We're explicitly going to prohibit a dishonest reporting of location. And if you get caught doing that, you're off the list. So we're not saying it's a misdemeanor. We're not making anything complicated out of this. You're simply off the list. It's a natural consequence to being a bad guy. So that's it. Simple bill. Throw trash in the garbage can. And if you're a bad guy and you lied, you don't get to play anymore. So walking through the bill. Section 1 would allow law enforcement to affix a notice to the vehicle and indicate that in 5 days, if the junk vehicle doesn't get picked up, we're going to tow it away and it'll be scrapped. Section 2, if the vehicle is not registered and the owner is unknown, the vehicle can be a junk vehicle, be described as a junk vehicle, and there's no requirement to jump through all those hoops, finding the owner, etc. Section 3 is conforming language. Section 4 changes the value of a junk vehicle from $200 to $500. And Section 5 is conforming language. And then 6 is this issue about if you're, which prohibits reporting an inaccurate location and identifying a consequence for that. There are 3 issues that we are still in the process of resolving that I want to point out. The first of which is the bill, the unamended bill, included a 48-hour wait period after the vehicle is towed. So the stakeholders, we have worked with a large group of stakeholders on this bill, and the intention was a one-touch. You pick the thing up, you throw it away, and you don't have to hold space in an impound lot. Legal has let us know that that 48 hours that was in the original BDR is a requirement to make sure that this is constitutional. Due process, they let us know that due process is required on both before and after the towing. So we want to continue to explore some creative options there. If we don't even know who the owner is, not sure how that due process is happening, but there's some, we need to come to resolution on that. Ideally, we would do a one-touch straight into the garbage can. We need some time to figure that little section out. Another issue is rendering. So the RVs, Assemblyman Carter was talking about the large vehicles. So those RVs are, they could have human waste in them. They could have all kinds of propane. So that stuff has to be taken out of the vehicle before it can be crushed in the scrapyard. So we're working on a process for, could that be rendered on the curb? Again, the ideal solution is a one-touch. So we're working on that part. And then the final part of the process that we have yet to nail down exactly is ideally what would happen is law enforcement comes out, they see the vehicle, they slap the tag on it that says, okay, you got 5 days. If this thing isn't gone in 5 days, we're taking it to the junkyard. But we need to make sure that DMV gets the towers the junk certificate that makes the whole process legal. So we're working on identifying that checklist with the 4 items, the 4 criteria, and how do we get to junk certificate so we can make this whole thing efficient. So that's it, folks. That's our bill on abandoned vehicles and towing for this session.
And Assemblyman Max Carter, AD 12. I just want to reiterate that this bill is one of those that you don't run into very often. Industry and residents agree that municipalities and industry and constituents all agree that this is an issue, and we've had very few conflicts in coming to this resolution. My colleague, Assemblymember Goulding, has done an amazing job, but I also got to say, the industry representatives sitting behind us, Danny Thompson and Paul Enos, stepped up when asked and have been intimately involved in crafting a workable solution. And it's not a north or south issue. If you notice, Dr. Titus has signed on to this bill. Why? She's got the same problems in her community. Same thing with Angie Taylor, with Senator Taylor. And, you know, so it's the whole state, and it's everybody in it that has these issues that we're trying to resolve. And thank you.
Heather Goulding, for the record, I want to add one more thing. Assemblymember Karras asked me the other day, who's going to pay for this? So that's the issue that so currently what's happening is if a vehicle is on public land, then the municipality, the county, somebody's already paying for it. So that's an issue that I think is down the line that we want to work on. But when I imagine a larger solution to this problem, I think about a process change to make it more streamlined, and then a carrot and a stick. Those are three separate aspects of a larger solution. This is the process part. So we're working on that. And the other two, the carrot and the stick, that may not be a legislative solution. That is probably a local solution. So those things, hold on those. We're the same people that are paying now will still have to continue paying, but hopefully it will be less costly because there are fewer hoops. But that's sort of the big picture is process, carrot, stick. Thanks.
All right, assuming that concludes your presentation, thank you both very much. Well done. I'll just take a moment, first of all, to advise Assemblymember Goulding that there's a superstition around calling a bill simple. So
Heather Goulding,
just-
for the record, this is a very complex bill, but I think that we can get there. I wouldn't want anybody to be misled into thinking that it was simple.
Okay, we'll make sure that the record reflects that. And this is certainly a very interesting towing-related bill. I think I can definitely say it's the best one that I've encountered during my time in the building, and I see some head nods from people that don't always agree on these issues. So, really appreciate the effort to address a true issue that we do see across the state. As someone that grew up in East Las Vegas, I agree. East Las Vegas, part of it should be a national monument, not a dumping ground. So, with that, we will open it up to questions. I believe we do have one from Assemblymember Backus.
Thank you so much, Chair. My questions are going to pertain to Section 6, but first, obviously, Assembly members, well done on your very thorough presentation. But going into Section 6, this is regarding the tow truck operator who's using the spoofing device or whatever it may be. I have kind of a two-part question. One, I take it the enforcement agency is the Department of Motor Vehicles, since this falls under Chapter 706. And so I didn't really know or understand how the enforcement is going to happen. And then the list appear to be maintained by various law enforcement. So I assume that's local law enforcement, Nevada Highway Patrol. So I'm trying to understand fully what this is all going to look like for enforcement.
Heather Goulding, for the record, excellent questions, and I have to say, I'll get back to you on that. Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Good question. I was also wondering how exactly these folks would get caught. So if anyone has the ability to speak to that at some point, it'd be great. But with that, we'll move to Assemblymember Gurr.
Thank you, Chair. I like the bill, I really do. And my district probably has more dump cars in it than any district in the United States. My question, you stated that the local municipalities, cities and counties pay to have these towed now? Let me finish. Are you sure of that? Positive of that? That every county and every municipality in the state will do that? That's my first question, and I'll have a follow-up.
Heather Goulding for the record. No, I don't know. There are people here that can probably help out with that. And to be completely transparent, I didn't deal with the issue of who's paying at all. So there were, to the chair's point, it's actually an extremely complicated situation because there are so many variables. It's kind of an elegant solution to a complex environment, which I think is what makes this bill work. But I didn't address who pays. As I said, I see that as the next steps. If it's on private land, the private landowner pays. If it's on public land, the only way to get that off is if some public entity pays, unless you've got a good Samaritan.
And I believe we have a phone-a-friend. Mr. Enos has joined the table, and as someone who's also quite familiar with Elko County, he may have some additional context to provide. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, I'm Paul Enos, E-N-O-S. I'm the CEO of the Nevada Trucking Association. And how it works today is rarely, if ever, does a tow operator get paid for these kind of tows. Sometimes there is like a neighborhood cleanup fund where they'll do that, but that's very rare. So these tend to be costs that the towing company absorbs as their cost of doing business. There's three ways tow operators make money. They make money from the tow, they make money from the storage, and they make money from the ultimate sale of the vehicle. In these scenarios, the only way that they're gonna get any money is by scrapping them. And so, you know, what does that mean? Well, I was talking to a couple of my tow operators today, an average like boat trailer, small trailer, $88 in scrap. Scrap for a motorhome, and this is the chassis, is $158. That's the average. So they are absorbing this cost as, you know, doing business. We just as, you know, kind of how they do their business. We don't love that. We like for there to be a better way to do it, but we do agree with Assemblyman Goulding that it's not contemplated in this bill. But what this bill does is, and I am in support of the bill, by the way, this bill streamlines the process because today our tow operators, they go out, they tow this on average about $800 for, you know, some of these big motor homes is the cost of the tow. And then they have to store it. And they have to store it for 15 days. So 15 days, you know, let's say you charge $80 a day. So, you know, you're now looking at about a $2,000 nut for this that you're never going to get. Well, you're going to get $158 for the scrap. So what this bill contemplates doing is making it an easier thing for the tow operators to do, not having to store it. They get to touch it once. It doesn't need to sit in their yard, take up space where they can't store other vehicles that they are going to get paid for. So we do think that process, this bill does make where we're at today better. Does it fix it entirely for us? No. But it does it put us in a better position than we are today? Absolutely. At the same time as we're helping these communities clean up blight, which nobody likes to see. And Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want me to continue on other pieces of support on the bill.
I think we can just have you pause there. You can come back and make your official statement. But Assemblymember Gurr, do you have any additional?
I like the explanation. I like the bill. I like what it does. It gives it the opportunity to go out and look. But I think it needs some more work. Obviously, it needs to have conversations with the rural counties and rural entities and whether we do anything there or not. Plus, if you start pulling those things out, you're going to get rid of a bunch of targets for us.
Chair, if I might, to follow up, the part, sorry, Heather Goulding for the record. Part two, I think part two of this bill addresses part of the part one, the importance of making sure that bad actors are not getting advantage. We're trying to address that in part two because the good actors in part one are doing good, important work and they're not making money. So we need to make sure that the good actors are not getting cheated out of opportunities to make money on this, on the second part, on jobs that they otherwise should be earning on.
Thank you. We'll next move to Assemblymember Karas.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. You led right into my question, so I'm just gonna go with it. Why are you caring about the bad actors and the spoofing if they're gaining, the good tow truck operators are gaining $50 to maybe tops $200? Why do you care if someone who's farther away from a site picks that vehicle up first? I don't get it. Thank you.
Heather Goulding for the record. So they're cheating a system that is a fair system that everybody agrees to. I would care because it's just it's a dishonest approach to getting, to being able to fairly earn the money, earn the business.
Assembly Max Carter, for the record. You're thinking it backwards. What we're trying to do is stop, as in mining terms, the high grading. That operators focusing on getting the high dollar tows and avoiding these ones that are more community service. So it's not trying to help them get more of the community service. It's to stop them from cherry picking the ones where they're gonna make a lot of money.
Isn't really a question, but thank you for that, because I thought you were talking about racing to get the junk vehicles. So thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have a question from Assemblymember Gallant.
Thank you, Chair. Have you ever heard of the saying, one man's junk is another man's treasure? Okay. So I'm curious how, what is going to be the criteria? Because I'm reading through the bill and it just says appears to be junk, appears to be not roadworthy. Is there any clarity on what is going to be the criteria? And just from personal experience, right? I get HOAs constantly calling me saying there's an abandoned vehicle or an inoperable vehicle in the driveway of my tenants, and I'm like, the car works, I'm just sorry, it's really old, right? Or it's missing a bumper or something. So I'm wondering how we're going to deal with people's preconceived notions versus something a little bit more fair and balanced.
Excellent question. Heather Goulding for the record. So these 4 criteria, so one is it's not roadworthy. That doesn't mean that it's not roadworthy right now, we just need to fix a flat tire or something. It's not roadworthy. The windshield's missing, it's being shot out, so it's not roadworthy. It's not registered. So I think that your point is, I could have a $100 vehicle that I drive to work every day and we don't want to pick that up. So it's not roadworthy, it's not registered, it's been abandoned, and it's worth less than $500. So that combination, we've worked together to come up with that list of criteria that seem to cover the bases so that we're not accidentally picking up a vehicle that we shouldn't be picking up.
I appreciate this because there has been plenty of times where I have tried to get cars towed from my property and it is like an act of God, okay? But I think and maybe just think about this in more of a holistic point of view, is that our registration is pretty extensive, right? The penalties if you miss registration are pretty high, and so people kind of get into this quicksand. And then we have our insurance is tripling, actually the highest I think in the country is something that I'd read recently, and people just can't afford insurance, and then they can't get their car registered. So maybe there's something that we could look at, and we can talk about this offline, about making sure that we don't suck in those other folks that are drowning with our current situation between insurance and registration.
Thank you for that comment, Assembly Member. And we do have some legislation along those lines. I think the committee heard a relevant bill. So, and perhaps the bill sponsors can follow up with some additional images of the vehicles. Maybe go on a tour and see if any of them qualify as treasure to our good colleague here.
Heather Goulding for the record. I appreciate your comment, and one of the things we really tried to avoid was taking a vehicle, authorizing taking of a vehicle that somebody valued and needed. And I particularly appreciate the concern about folks that are in economic crisis, that are falling behind. That's why you have to meet all 4 of these criteria.
All right, thank you. Members, any additional questions? Assemblymember Dickman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank you both for bringing this bill and for your great presentation, and especially for allowing me to be a co-sponsor, because a large part of the district that Assemblymember Goulding represents used to be mine, and I would hear this all the time, and you came up with a solution, so thank you too. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. That was very nice. Members, any additional questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you both for the presentation. We'll now move to testimony. We'll begin with testimony in support of Assembly Bill 415. All right, we've got more people than seats, so we'll get the first 3, and as you finish your remarks, please step back so we can make room for another speaker to come up, and let's just keep those seats filled as we go. So whoever would like to go first, please proceed when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Danny Thompson. I'm testifying today as the co-owner of Snap Tow in Henderson. Our problem was stated, we get a lot of these motor homes that are abandoned, and we gladly take them. Most of them don't have wheels. We have to clean them out. Literally, they'll come full of garbage. We have to make sure there's nothing in there that's a problem. Then we have a large excavator where we literally smash it down. We then take the fiberglass and put it into dumpsters that we have to pay for. And then what's left after all the environmental stuff, the propane and all that stuff's gone, you've got about $100 and something worth of it, depending on the size. The actual cost to us is probably $1,000. So it really is a problem. That's not the problem. For us, the problem is we can have to keep these things for 90 days. It is obvious junk. It's obvious no one will ever show up and get it. We don't even know who owns them half the time. And, this is something that is long overdue. Our yard in Henderson right now today is about half full of these things and waiting for the lien sale. And so this really is an important bill to a lot of people. We urge you support. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and for the context. Mr. Enos, welcome back.
All right. Thank you. For the record, again, Paul Enos, CEO of the Nevada Trucking Association, in support of AB 415. We do think this is a good bill in terms of trying to streamline the process and limit that economic burden on the tow operator so they don't have to store it. I do want to talk about Section 6 because this is actually something that we approached Assemblywoman Goulding about. We have about 3 dozen or so tow operators as members of the Nevada Trucking Association. And there's always a number of questions about wreck chasing and, how these crashes that folks do get paid for, they do get paid for these tows, how that is handled with the rotation list. And there's some controversy on some of that, people chasing wrecks. But one of the things that I was made aware of was people using this software to show that they are closer to a vehicle than they actually are. Now, while a lot of tow operators might not like the new way that we dispatch tow trucks to these crashes are being cleared faster. And so that is a benefit to my truckers on the road, to all of us on the road, to get these accidents cleared faster. But when you have someone who is putting their location falsely, so they can be close to that wreck and be the first one dispatched, that is absolutely something that needs to stop. We need to prohibit that in statute. And 706 does cover a litany of different agencies, from the DMV to the Nevada Transportation Authority, as well as the Nevada High Patrol, that manages these lists. So to be able to kick them off the rotation list, I think, is an elegant and proper solution to these bad actors. My hope is we don't catch anybody on this, because people are now going to understand this is something you can't do, and it's a pretty severe consequence if this is how you're making money to have that taken away from you. I think should be enough of a prohibition where we don't catch people at this. Now, we can catch people. We do know folks that are wreck chasing and that, show up to a scene before their dispatch. We do know some of that stuff. On the other hand, you're going to know if somebody says they're there and it takes them 20 minutes to get there because they're in their yard and not the accident. So, I do think there's some real world ways to be able to address this problem. Once again, I just would like to thank Assembly members Carter and Goulding for bringing this forward and all the co-sponsors on this bill as well. So we do think this is a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee members. For the record, Tom Morley, representing just myself, regular old guy. I've had property over on in North Las Vegas area as well as the east side, as Chair acknowledged earlier, and support this bill. There are eyesores out there as you get towards Sunrise Mountain, Black Mountain, Apex, anywhere it seems like there's vacant desert. It seems like these vehicles are popping up more and more often. The entrance to Lake Mead is, as you addressed, when you go down Lake Mead from Nellis on, they're already dumped there, and they're eyesores. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Lucas Valletta for the Nevada State Tow Association. I echo Mr. Enos's comments. I also just wanted to address two of the questions that were raised by members. One with respect to the another man's treasure argument. Industry members are very sensitive to that. I think it's worth noting that the DMV has been appraising vehicles as junk and issuing junk certificates for a long time. So they do have a standard they use to issue these junk certificates. This bill changes the process associated with what happens to the vehicle and what options you have after the junk certificate issues. But I don't think there'd be a problem in getting you some information, Assemblywoman Gallant, about how the DMV appraises those vehicles under the dollar amount. I would also note that it is important to remember too that under the bill, the vehicle is tagged for 5 days before anything can be done with it. And it's important to remember too that these are vehicles in connection with which the owners are really not ascertainable, either because there's no DMV record or they're just not in the physical vicinity. And so I appreciate the opportunity to continue to work on the 48 hours, but I do think the 5-day notice is significant under the bill. And finally, with respect to the spoofing, just context there. So the Nevada Highway Patrol is one of the agencies that uses a third-party vendor to dispatch people to calls. There used to be a simple rotation system. Now this vendor uses the closest to the scene system. That's all fine. The question of enforcement is a good one, but that service is offered pursuant to a contract that NHP has with this particular vendor. I believe the vendor works with other local governments too. I'm not familiar with those contracts. In my view, what would happen here is, as parties to that contract, both parties would have an obligation to effectuate the contract, including ensuring that the service provider is not dispatching people who are not closest to the call. I'll also tell you that there is regular data reported to the Highway Patrol about who is getting calls, and if you look at it on a monthly basis, it is very obvious that something is happening. We went from a very even distribution of different companies getting calls to a very lopsided distribution of individual companies getting the majority of the calls. Thank you.
For the record, my name is Vincent Guthrow. Last name is spelled G-U-T-H-R-E-A-U. I'm the executive director of the Nevada Association of Counties, or NACO. We are the statewide organization that represents all 17 of Nevada's counties. I want to thank the sponsors for bringing this forward. This is an issue in urban and rural areas. I especially want to thank Assemblymember Goulding. She engaged NACO, I think, probably about 5 months ago on this issue, and was able to get a ton of stakeholders together, as you can see here. We believe at NACO this will allow local government sort of a streamlined and effective way to respond to resident complaints, and frankly to address blight and code enforcement in their local communities. Again, really appreciate them bringing this forward, and look forward to supporting the measure. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Darcy Phillips. I'm the executive director of Keep Truckee Meadows Beautiful. For 35 years, we're a nonprofit that has been removing trash and waste from Washoe County. When I started, my goal was to do something big and systemic about illegal dumping, and I quickly realized how difficult that is and the challenges of that. But the biggest one is these vehicles. And the longer a vehicle sits, the more destructive it becomes to the environment because it becomes more of a hazmat situation. I have a vehicle, for example, in Sun Valley that I've been watching for 2 years now. It is very close to the road, so it's quite visible. We've watched it go from an intact vehicle to basically a shell. We continue to clean up around this vehicle, but because the vehicle still sits there, and as we like to say, trash begets trash, we continue to clean up around it. Mattresses, furniture, a musical organ, and I'm using the word musical so you don't get confused about what kind of organ I'm talking about. But we have seen it all. Nothing surprises me, but we will continue to clean this up. But this vehicle can't be moved yet. So getting some of these things taken care of, we know this bill won't solve all the problems, but it's a very good start, and we are grateful in this time of crazy things going on and all the stuff that needs to be worked on that somebody is taking this up. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Olivia Tanager on behalf of the Sierra Club Toyabe chapter. For the record, we really appreciate the bill sponsor bringing this forward and have appreciated conversations with the assembly member about this. For all the reasons that the previous commenter stated, we also support this measure. We recognize that abandoned vehicles are a blight on the community, are a blight on the environment, and certainly have negative impacts on our environment. So speeding up the process for getting them out of there and keeping our clean places clean, we fully support. So with that, I'll ditto the rest of the commenters before me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Watts, members of the committee. Joanna Jacob on behalf of Clark County. I am here in support with just a little bit of how did we get here. Over the summer, when I was working with our Board of County Commissioners on our legislative package, this issue was bubbling up. We are pursuing a number of legislation to address some of these community issues that have been the subject of constituent complaints, and it's impacting multiple commission districts. So we were at that time very fortunate to partner with Assemblyman Carter, and then found out that Assemblyman Golding, very fortunate that she also was working on this issue. So this is truly a statewide issue, and I echo the comments from the chair that it is sometimes very difficult to find a bill that can address an issue statewide, but I do believe that this is a very good bill that is trying to address that. Abandoned large vehicles in our community is already a violation of the county code to park an abandoned vehicle in our rights of way. But the issue is, how do we actually get the vehicle removed? That has been the barrier. So we started to work with the tow companies and the Nevada Trucking Association on that issue specifically. The parking in the rights of way, and I'm happy to, Chair Watts, you had said something about a photo tour. Anybody wants to come down and tour our neighborhoods and see what this looks like in Clark County? We have vehicles lining our streets and our blocks. Mr. Morley talked about that in his testimony. It becomes a safety issue for us and also an issue for the neighborhoods in that it obstructs the right-of-way and access in case of emergency and our emergency response, that we would not be able to deliver services to those homes. And that is a concern. And I think this has been an amazing job on behalf of the leadership of Assembly Member Carter and Assembly Member Golding to put this together. We'll, of course, continue to work on this. And Assemblyman Gurr, just to let you know on what we're doing today, we do partner with some of the contractors you heard today on abatement contractor for our private properties. It is an issue, though, on how can we partner with tow companies. They do partner with Clark County, and so we wanted to address the time. And then in times where they can't partner with us because of the space issues detailed by Mr. Thompson, Clark County Public Works has had to dismember, I guess. We've had to take apart the vehicle in the street. So it is an issue for us as well. Thank you for all of your time and everybody's support who has signed on to this bill. And of course, we will continue to work on it.
Good afternoon, Chair, members. My name is Adrian Hunt, ADRIAN-HUNT. I represent Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We're in support of AB 415. This bill will be very impactful for our agency regarding towing. We want to thank the bill sponsors for bringing this forward. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Watts, members of the committee. I am Jason Walker, JASONWALKER, representing the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, supporting Assembly Bill 415. Continuing with thank yous regarding Assembly members Goulding and Carter for bringing this bill forward. This bill identifies these vehicles as junk quicker by the stakeholders involved, which allow us to move and process them in a timely manner, as opposed to allowing them to clog up our tow yards, neighborhoods, and public lands. It is my experience that if you leave these junk vehicles there too long, they start to multiply. Happy to continue to participate in the conversations to see this bill through. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Phil Woolley, PHILWOOLEY, and I'm here representing Desert Pigs. And we are a nonprofit organization of volunteers that goes out and cleans up the desert all over Nevada, and we've been doing it since 2018. So we're the boots on the ground out there actually hauling this trash out of there. Along with, much like KTMB, we're a smaller organization, but we cover a different area. I would love to invite everybody in this room to come tour with us on Saturday in Mound House, where we're going to be cleaning up. And Mound House is just one of many towns where there are just hundreds of dumped vehicles out there. There's not a single trail out there that doesn't have them. And I can tell you that within 5 days of being out there, those things are full of holes, smashed up, the catalytic converter's been ripped out of it, they're flipped upside down, and many times they are surrounded by used drug needles. And as it was mentioned before, it does attract more trash. It attracts more vehicles, and it attracts the kind of people that go out and use those needles. So we're in full support of this bill, and would also love to offer any support that we can lend in getting these things off the trail. And we can drag them as far as you want them.
Thank you very much for your comments, and thank you very much for all the work that you do. Please go ahead.
Don Hawkins, HAWKINS, also part of the Desert Pigs out at Fernley chapter. Like they've said, trash accumulates trash. Out in our desert, everybody's talking about city streets. In our desert, there's dozens of cars. They last a week. We've hauled cars, or we've seen cars out there when we're hauling trash out. That's beyond recognition. We take bets to figure out what the vehicle was before it got shot up, burned up. Other people drag them around. People turn them into toys. You'll start seeing cars where they drag them 4, 5, 6 cars in one spot. Turns into a bonfire area. So yeah, being able to get them moved out of the desert, get them hauled off to scrap would definitely keep our public lands, keep them clean, keep our trails open for people to go out for recreational uses. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Watts. Matt Morris for the record here on behalf of Sun Valley General Improvement District. You've heard some support testimony already about the abandoned vehicles issue in Sun Valley, and we just want to applaud Assembly Members Goulding and Carter for bringing stakeholders together to come up with this solution. We think that AB 415 will do a lot for Sun Valley and help to address this issue in our community. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Susan Zinser. I own DNS Tow here in Sparks as well as in Carson City. Some would wonder why I would support this, but I do. I'm not so much that it finds revenue to pay me to do such a thing, because I have to do them anyway, but what it does is it speeds up the process. I don't have to keep them in my yard forever. I can take them away, with exception of maybe the RVs, because the RVs require rendering. They require trash. They're not as easy to go to a scrapyard. You have to cut them up and pretty much throw them away. And then you get to get rid of the metal frame. That's what you get money for, but you got to get to the frame first. As far as community involvement, we do all of that. I encourage that. That's what we do. We have the ability to do that. But at the end of the day, there comes a point that we can't just do this all day long either. So I can only, I budget myself on how much pro bono work I can do. So when it gets to that point, then it needs to, something else needs to happen. The spoofing part is a massive correction in the industry that needs to happen. It is enticing, wreck, crashing. Someone's going to get hurt. and that needs to stop, like, without even thinking about it. So that's what I have to say. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would wish to provide testimony in support? Although it seems like almost everybody in the room has already. Seeing nobody coming forward in Carson City or in Las Vegas, AVH, would anyone like to provide testimony in support of AB 415 by phone?
Testify in support to Assembly Bill 415, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Caller with the
Hello, this is Al Rojas calling from Assembly District 12. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Rojas. Please proceed.
Yes. Yeah, I live in Assembly District 12. I've been listening to your bill, and I was doing some research on it. You appear to be wanting to get some solutions for funding. There happens to be a county called Nevada in California, which charges $1 DMV fee to handle these problems of towing these cars. And I encourage all the people who supported this bill, including the legislators, to look into that. I'm part of a neighborhood watch group here in Assembly District 12. I just requested about 3 cars to get towed this morning on Shast. And, generally speaking, you don't want to let these things pile up, but once they go in there and they abandon them, they are a problem. So I'm totally in support of this bill. Let's look into what Nevada County, California is doing with the $1 DMV fee. And that may be every county should charge a $1 DMV fee to appropriately address this issue, because it is going to cost money. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rojas. Surprised to hear you support new fees, but we'll make sure that's included on the record. AVH, next caller, please.
Chair Watts. Good afternoon, Chair Watts. Could you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Good afternoon, sir, and you and the members of the committee. This is Dora Martinez. I support this bill because I walk a lot with my service dog, and some cars are covering the bike trail, so the bicyclist goes on the sidewalk. So I wholeheartedly support this bill, and I thank my Assembly Member Golding for bringing it to your attention. And thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martinez. AVH, next caller, please.
Chair, we have no more callers to testify in support at this time.
All right, thank you. With that, we will move on to testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 415. Anyone wishing to provide testimony in opposition, please come forward. Seeing nobody at this time, AVH, can we check the phone?
Chair, we have no callers to testify in opposition at this time.
All right, and finally, we'll move to testimony in neutral on Assembly Bill 415. Mr. Sever, welcome back
Thank you, Chair.
your normal position. Please proceed.
Neutral. Thank you, Chair, committee members. Sean Sever from the DMV. We are neutral on AB 15, and sorry, Chair, we submitted another zero impact fiscal note. The DMV does not receive any fees from the evaluations of these junk or abandoned vehicles, and the additional language will have no impact on the DMV's existing abandoned vehicle processes. I did want to point out, if someone would like to check the registration status of an abandoned vehicle, they could do one of 2 things at the DMV. We have an online vehicle registration verification that's on our website that will tell you whether the registration is active or not, or you can fill out a form. It's the IR002 form on our website that someone can send to us with $5 to get the last known registered owner's address or the last lien holder's contact information. And then we can follow up with an email on the question about how the DMV values junk vehicles. Thanks.
Thank you, that'd be great. As far as the fiscal notes go, I'm starting to take it personally, but that's okay. All right, seeing nobody else coming up in person, AVH, does anyone wish to provide neutral testimony on Assembly Bill 415 by phone?
Chair, we have no callers to testify in neutral.
All right, would the presenters like to make any closing remarks?
Heather Goulding for the record. I just want to thank all of the stakeholders. We've had a lot of meetings and people have been very willing to brainstorm on this. And so thank you, committee, thank you, chair, and thank you to all the stakeholders. I hope we're on a path to cleaning up our environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Please keep us posted as those conversations continue to move forward. But I think there's a great deal of excitement about this policy. So with that, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 415. And we will move on to the last item on our agenda, which is public comment. Again, if anyone would like to provide public comment by phone, please call 888-475-4499. When prompted, provide the meeting ID 840-8810-4531 and then press pound. With that, would anyone like to provide public comment here in Carson City? Seeing no one coming forward and seeing no one in Las Vegas, AVH, would anyone like to provide public comment by phone?
If you wish to provide public comment, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Yeah, hi, this is Al Rojas, again from Assembly District 12. I wanted to report to the committee the success that we're having with our Neighborhood Watch program. Safe Communities Network. We are networked with my HOAs and all the businesses in our area over on Lake Mead and Clark County. I'm sorry, Lake Mead and Hollywood Boulevard. And I just want to say that hopefully we promote them. We are doing really well with homeless people, and this is the way we're doing it. Before we tear down their camps, we send somebody down there to integrate, talk to them, figure out what their problem is. And an organization called HELP puts them on the map and their diagnosis. And we're building a map of all the homeless people on the east side over on Senate District 21, which is what we're focusing on, which is composed of Assembly District 12 and the Assembly District 14. However, they're not open on Fridays. And I'm not sure why. They're also contracted by the county. And I'm asking that possibly we do a little bit more funding. And I'm going to tell you, you know, I lived in a beach area for 38 years, and beaches are hard to protect. We got contraband coming in. We got drugs on the street. We got homeless. But we've been managing the homeless problem for over half a century. And these things are manageable. We know how to do it. Go watch how Huntington Beach is doing it, how Newport is doing it. And when you compare them to other beach cities like Venice Beach, you'll see the success. Forget about San Antonio, how they're doing it. Go look at how beach cities handle it down in Orange County, and you'll have the answer. And that's what I'm bringing to Clark County. Thank you very much. Bye.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rojas. We will definitely take a look at California. AVH, next caller for public comment, please.
Chair, we have no more callers to provide public comment at this time.
All right. Thank you again to everyone who came to today's meeting and provided testimony on the matters that we were hearing today. Thank you to the members for your time and attention. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, March 20th at 1:30 p.m. And we will hear additional bills and I think have our first work session. So members, please keep an eye on your email for that. With that, this meeting's adjourned.